Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Hello. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Extra Credit Podcast with me, Decker, and Night Mother.
Greetings.
We we made it through another 12 chapters of Kingdom of the Wicked by Carrie Maniscalco,
Did we ever?
and this might be. Would it be hyperbole to say this is the toughest 12 chapters? This is the toughest we've had to read through.
No, it's entirely true. I literally have my wine bottle at the desk with me tonight. My eye is already twitching. Like, these chapters were a lot.
Fury inducing. It was shocking at how wild.
Yeah. I guess I'm literally speechless. Like, not a lot really happened, but also too much happened, and not enough of it was described properly. We met some characters who contribute nothing to the overall story. We get a little bit of like sexual tension between our two main characters. Um
Okay. Okay. Let's start with where we started. Chapter 25,
yeah.
where Amelia is back cooking again.
Yeah.
And
Finally, C and Vine has returned to its main character moment.
right. And she's cooking pesto. And she keeps thinking back to, ooh, I bet my demon boyfriend would love my pesto.
Yeah, she's like fantasizing about feeding him just like straight up pesto. Like,
Yeah, no
uh,
thanks. I pesto's fine, but it's got to be with stuff, you know.
yeah, you can't just like feed it to somebody on a spoon.
I don't want your green like medicinal paste.
But it's
Thank you
got like
very much.
fresh basil from the gardens of Sicily. Oh, but her mom is like chewing her out. So she's in the kitchen with her
Right.
mama, and she's getting really like she's like chewing her out for not coming home. She's like, lies are the gateway to hell. And she starts like giving her a sex talk, kind of, because she thinks that like she's just been out like having sinful premarital sex with
Right.
this guy because Fratello Antonio, her former like friar crush,
Right.
who came across Amelia and Wrath in the same crypt where she found her sister murdered. He like ran immediately to her parents and
Yeah.
was like, I've seen Amelia
He
in
went
the
and
catacombs.
he snitched real quick.
Yeah.
Like as soon as he got intimidated by Demon Prince, he was like, "I'm telling."
What was the name that Amelia introduced him as? Do you remember?
Samuel?
It was something like
Samael?
yeah, I think that was it.
Yeah.
I traumatically blocked it out.
Because she was like, "It's the name of an angel," and he's like, "Don't ever do that.
Right, a fallen angel, just
Don't
like
ever
him.
compare me." He's like, "Okay, jeez." But
But she like pretends that she isn't into this idea of like her mom being like, "Oh my god, like I'm not I'm not having that kind of relationship with him. Like I can't even fathom the idea of him like being naked with me and like touching me with his toned like tan body. Like
right.
no, I would be like so not into that."
And she immediately starts fantasizing about
Yeah,
like
it's just
it's
like, "Is it like hot in here?"
constant. If there is ever an instance where someone like calls into question whether or not there is something between them, she's like, "No, never." But if there was,
Yeah, like I mean,
I'm gonna think about it. And then she gets like upset at herself, question mark? But
yeah,
not
but channels
really.
it into Antonio mostly because she's
Right.
like, well, who can I blame for how I'm feeling right now instead of
Yeah.
actually being self-aware? I'm gonna go straight. Well, her mom's like, you got to make dinner for the monks tonight. I told Antonio that you'd stop by, and she's like, oh. So she like makes some fucking ricotta or whatever, and like storms over there,
And then like
slams it on the table.
throws it on the
There's no more,
table.
yeah, there's no more playful throwing of tomato slices anymore.
And that's when she like chews him out, and it's so I don't remember anything about it. I just remember she was mad, and that was she was mad.
Yeah, she's like, "How dare you go right to my family? Like, you could have just waited to walk me home." He's like, "I found you in the catacombs with a boy, in the same catacombs where your sister was murdered, and also another girl was murdered last night. So I
Right.
was like convinced it was you. So I went to go to your family's place to check to make sure it wasn't you. Instead of just like waiting for her, I don't know. Like it seemed flimsy at best. Like
It's the first in this grouping of 12 chapters. It is the first of many instances where decisions are made for no reason.
yeah. They have, like, a
Also,
nice rom-com moment, though, where he, like,
also,
reaches out, he, like, tucks hair behind her ear.
right. But I also wrote down that like more lady murder question mark. I said that's weird because this book doesn't seem to be particularly worried about the ones who already have been.
Yeah, we're up to, like, what's the body count
It's
now?
like
4 or
3
5 girls? Yeah,
and
and,
no
like,
one
we don't
gives a
care about
shit.
any of them. Yeah. We barely care about Vittoria,
Right.
and now there's all these other potential brides for the devil who keep getting killed,
That they
and their
just
hearts are
keep
getting
inventing.
yeah, and they're all the most Italian names of all time.
Yeah. It's really
I think this one's name was Giulia Santorini.
yeah. But in the next chapter, I think Amelia finds out that Wrath went on walkabout.
Yeah, it takes a turn for the Twilight in this chapter. Like, it's like Carrie Maniscalco doesn't know how to describe a dangerous boy without making him like a vampire. She's
Right.
like Amelia and Wrath are like going to the market to find out more about this girl, the newest murdered girl. And she's like, "Oh my god, he like looks really good in his clothes, but he's like a dangerous predator. Like he could like kill me right now if he wanted. Like he could like do so many violent things to me like
Yeah.
if he wanted."
But like like he could do things that are so violent like I can't even like describe them because I just don't know a word than violent.
Yeah, or like dark or demonic.
Right. um like immediately my first note of chapter 26 is Amelia is one of the most insufferable characters in fiction.
Yeah. And that's not even an exaggeration. Like that's just facts.
uh I don't know what caused it. I don't remember. My brain has
Um
gone to great lengths to immediately forget.
here's a quote that might support it. It says his eyes glittered with dark amusement. Of course, the topic of death would appeal to him.
Yeah.
Oh, she's also asking him the same question 28 times.
Right.
Like they're walking around and she's like, "Are you sure? Like, are you sure that you didn't know anything else about this girl?" And it's
Right.
like, yeah.
And that's a trend that has been consistent throughout this whole book so far is that Amelia, despite Wrath, our demon prince, doing nothing to even suggest that he's anything other than her ally in this endeavor, she immediately, at the slightest drop of a hat, unprovoked usually, will accuse him of withholding information, lying, uh, murder.
Yeah, even though he literally cannot lie to her. That's like one of the core demon rules. Like that's one thing that's been very established. Maybe the only thing that's been well established in this book is that demons cannot directly lie. Why? We don't know. That's never
That's just
explained.
how
But
it's. That's just
yeah.
the rules.
Mhm.
Also, I have coined a phrase, a new, I guess you could call it a phrase, but Amelia has the harmful female gaze.
Yeah.
It is anytime she describes any male, it's the most objectifying, harmful, and toxic way to look at someone.
Mhm.
It's shocking.
Yeah,
And
we
I
don't
wonder if Harry Maniscalco has ever actually had to endure being looked at like that. Because if she had, this would not be a thing.
No, because she definitely married the first guy she ever kissed. Like that's what she did.
Yeah.
It's prevalent. But like yeah, like we don't know. We never find out anything about like every prince of hell that she has described is like interchangeable with any of the other ones because all she describes is like their chiseled pecs,
Hmm.
toned golden skin,
Right.
but varying like melted metals. So one of them was like burnished melted pennies or whatever, and the other one was like liquid gold and whatever. We get either arrestingly handsome or classically handsome. And that is about it. We don't know what color any of their hair are. We don't know like how they carry themselves. We don't know any personality traits, mannerisms,
No.
nothing.
No, no,
Just
no.
that all of them are just like toned. That's
Yeah.
about it.
They're hot TM.
Yeah.
And that's it. But there's like they have a discussion about like Amelia's investigating ability, and Wrath like fires back because she's like, "Well, are you sure you don't know more?" And he's like, what do you want from me, dude?
Yeah.
What is it that I can do for you that will get you from crawling up my ass?"
Nothing.
And she's like, "Well," and I have the quote here is, "I just tug on threads that seem likely."
I wrote
And
all that in capitals.
immediately I wrote after that, "Okay, dude, let's keep pretending you don't have mega bias."
All she's doing in this murder investigation is trying to tie it to greed. Like all she doesn't care about trying to actually find this murderer. She's like, "But are you sure like greed didn't do this?" And he's like, "Fucking yes." He has
How
no
many times do I
motive.
gotta say it?
Like and she doesn't give it up. She doesn't stop it here. She doesn't stop it by the end of this dozen chapters we read. She just keeps going. She's like, "It's definitely got to be greed.
He's the
He's the
only
last
one.
person I met, so he's got to be him."
Yeah, he's the last person I laid eyes upon.
Yeah.
Therefore, capable of murder.
Yeah. But they're like in the marketplace having this like stupid what I think we're supposed to believe is like a cute exchange where they go see number one town gossip Salvatore and she's like, "Oh, that's where I got that shirt you're wearing that he like hates so much." And he's like, "I'm going to kill him." Haha. And they go to this like marketplace stall and he just like uses his demon prowess to negotiate a shirt exchange. Everyone's staring at him. Like the whole
If you can
thing
even call
was
it that.
excruciating.
It's like it was never described as him like doing his demon like allure, where he's like, "Ooh, you will exchange this shirt."
Yeah, he was
Because if
just
it
like,
was, it would be like if I was writing this, First of all, wouldn't be writing this story. And that's that. But if I had to, gun to my head, if I had to write this exchange, I wouldn't have him a prince of hell go up to a market stall and be like, "Hello, I'd like to make an exchange." What the fuck do you mean? He's a lord of hell. You have him
Yeah.
go up to the stall and be like, "Give me that shirt."
Yeah.
And that's it. That's the end of the exchange. Man shits his pants because he's like, I'm very intimidated by this man giving off hellish aura.
Yeah.
Here, take it.
Yeah. No, he's basically like, I want to
I'd like to
exchange
make an
my shirt.
exchange, please, for store
He's like,
credit.
yeah, yeah. And he's like, right away. And like, there's a point where they're like hanging out around Salvatore, and Amelia thinks she's like trying to subtly ask Wrath like how close he needs to be to somebody to use like his special demon skills on a scenario, because they're trying to figure out like if Salvatore is lying about something, or they're just trying to get information about how this girl died and where. And she goes, she thinks she's being like super discreet because she's like, there's so many humans around, like, and I can't be like, hey, Wrath, like, how close do you have to be to a human to use your demon power? So she says, how close do you have to be to conduct your special investigation? And then she says, Wrath, who was well versed in the art of deception, didn't miss a beat. It's like, you hid nothing. You deceived no one. Like, what do you mean deception? You just said special investigation. Like,
It's so frustrating to
and then after
actually
that,
lay eyes on these words.
she asks him for the 46th time after that. She's like, do you see any traces that Greed was here? He's like, no.
No! Leave it
I'm
alone!
not.
Fuck! He wants to make money. That's his thing.
Yeah.
Murder is not up his alley. Leave him alone. Also, we get a overly descriptive uh, paragraph and a half of what Amelia's wearing.
Yeah.
And my note here is, hey, who gives a shit about what you're wearing?
And it's the most basic bitch thing of all time. She's like, ooh, my sleeveless white dress is clinging
Yeah.
to me like a second skin, but somehow I'm also chilly.
Fucking who cares? Who cares? Shut up!
We still don't know what she looks like.
Doesn't matter.
Besides her hair. That's it.
I don't think this author could describe a human being if their life depended on it.
I think she assumes that we think that it's just her, like the author. Like, this is a self insert, definitely.
Boy, I hope so. Otherwise, maybe it isn't a self-insert. That's why it's so bland.
Maybe.
But in chapter 27, I forget what happens, but my note here is, oh my god, dude, shut the fuck up. I'm unfazed by your minor, pathetic inconvenience. And I don't remember why I wrote that.
She, I don't know. This is where I was like, oh my God.
My
Her
notes
and
for the whole chapter give no indication about what the chapter was about, only my increased frustration. Like, after that one is, I have officially lost patience with Amelia. And then the one after that is literally spelled wrong because I was so mad. Literally fed up.
Yeah, this chapter is where I was like, oh my God, Amelia and Wrath are Megan Fox and Machine Gun Kelly. Because there's a moment where it's like, I was like, the kind of detective work that would make Lucifer clutch his rosary. And there's a quote that Megan Fox says about her relationship with Machine Gun Kelly that could have been directly taken from this book, where it's like, it's ecstasy and agony for sure. I don't want people to think anything's perfect with us. I didn't say it was the darkest fairy tale for no reason. There's also the demonic side. But she gets this like note. She shoves it down her bodice with the other 29 items she keeps there.
Right.
She goes to meet Wrath. Wrath is like, I've taken up residence in this abandoned castle, because of course he
Yeah.
has. She goes up, she finds that he's like sun tanning, and she's like, I thought you couldn't be in the daylight like a vampire, right?
Oh,
Because you're
right.
like a vampire, because this is the only other kind of like supernatural hot boy creature I've ever engaged with.
Yeah.
He's like, who the fuck told you I couldn't be outside? She's like, I don't know, like, you're just
The
so dangerous. I just
legends.
assumed like the sun was bad for
Yeah.
you.
Just sounds to me, Amelia, like you're racist.
And then he also says, I think they're talking about like making out or something again. And he's like, my kisses are sinfully good.
Right.
And then he's like trying to convince her to come stay at the castle with him for a while.
Yeah, he's like,
She's like,
move in, dog.
no. Yeah, she's
Move
like, no,
in.
I'd rather keep my family in mortal peril, actually. So,
Right. And it's worth noting that in the last chapter, before like 2 weeks ago, we ended with fucking Mima or Nonna or
yeah,
any combination of like the terms people have for their grandmother.
no,
Uh,
babushka.
she had almost died. Her head was nearly cut off,
Yeah.
and she's fine.
Her family was so chill about it from moment one. Like, the dad came home, I'll get rags.
Ah, jeez, throat's fucking opened up again. I'll go get the rags.
Yeah, her head's been like nearly sawed off with a dagger, but like, I guess I'll get some bandages and shit.
Okay, this is like the next chapter because nothing happens. 27, and this is probably how the rest of this episode is gonna go because we're so fucking angry
Yeah.
about this group of chapters that what happens in them doesn't matter. What matters is what they've done to us.
Irreparable damage.
But the next chapter is my first of several paragraph long notes. And this is the first one is that either Harry Maniscalco is or was a role player in like Muds or Mushes, which is like a couple people will know what that means. But it's essentially like a role playing game that's text based online, and you play with other people in like consistently going online game where you role play characters and stuff. And I did
Kind of
that.
what I did with like LiveJournal.
Yeah, but it's like in a specific browser, like you open up in a
Oh, okay.
browser,
Okay.
or I think it's got like its own programs you can download. It doesn't matter.
Okay. But
But
it's text-based role playing.
right, and those kind of people can be picked at like I did it for many years. And the kind of people who play that stuff can be picked out of a crowd based
Hmm.
on how they write.
Okay.
And Carrie has many characteristics of those people, like constantly, endlessly drawing attention to what that person is wearing, regardless of its relevance.
Right.
Because we're always being told what Amelia's outfit is doing,
Hmm.
regardless of whether or not it has credence on what is happening currently.
And usually it has no
None.
bearing on
Yeah.
what's going on.
And just the fundamental misunderstanding of the will they won't they trope.
Hmm.
Uh that is common among Mush players. They think that will they won't they means enemies to lovers, but it's not. And like this isn't even enemies to lovers. Like
She's just annoying and he's tolerating her.
he's
Like,
he's a he can't be a demon because he's a fucking saint putting up with that garbage
yeah.
constantly.
Yeah.
like it blows my mind at how lazy all of this is.
Mhm.
It's so there's very little thought put into anything at all. Like the romance is very half-assed, the plot is non-existent, the characters have no depth. The world building is incalculably worthless.
It doesn't exist. Like, it could be literally any city in Italy at any time in history, but we like, we were not told anything other than there's a
It's
marketplace
right.
and restaurants.
And anyway, in this chapter, Amelia says something about how she's been trying to do this murder investigation without bringing emotion into it, and I specifically wrote, that's all you've been doing.
All she's been doing is
You have only been
throwing
emotional.
accusations around, yeah, flying into a rage over anything,
Right.
blaming everyone.
Everyone but her. And
Yeah.
like another thing that drives me absolutely bonkers is her whenever she reaches a dead end in her mind, which just means that the lead has run its course. She's always like, I have to go back to my sister's diary because something juicy will. Like, that has never borne fruit. That has
Yeah.
never gotten you anywhere.
No, but
You've gone
random
back to
trinkets
it.
will.
You've gone back to the diary 3 times now, and not a single time has it ever panned out.
Yeah.
And she insists that there is the thing that will crack this case wide open inside it.
Yeah. And like occasionally new trinkets will surface that are just being introduced conveniently
Mm-hmm.
at that point. She's like, "Oh, I found something else in my sister's dresser or
Right.
something."
But now we're at the point in the story where Amelia is relying entirely on other people to do the work for her.
Mhm.
Everyone else is out putting in, you know, in detective terms, knocking on doors, canvassing, running down leads. And she's just sitting around going, I'll get whoever's done this.
Yeah, she gets like a very humbling reality check from Wrath, who's like, "Listen, every time you've met another creature, like a creature from another world, they've immediately manipulated your emotions and fucked you up, and you
Yeah.
kind of suck at this investigation." And then she kind of like starts angry crying. She calls him horse manure, and then like dramas out. And then
Yeah.
he's like, "You've been going around telling people, like, especially demons, like the one thing you want most in this world. And that's a mistake because everybody
Yeah.
can manipulate you with that." And she's like, ah. And then she tries to lie. She's like, "Well, you don't know that's my top motivation." He's like,
It's
"You're
written all over
lying to
your
me right
dumb
now."
bitch face.
Yeah. And then they start like angry holding hands. And
Oh, God.
and then they go and meet a mortal who has sold his soul named Francesco. And then this is where like so Francesco is a messenger who I don't know who he's a messenger for, but he works with the demon princes.
Right. He's just
He
like demon
knew
courier.
yeah, he knew the name of the girl who was like next in line to be the bride of the devil
Yeah.
and betrayed Wrath somehow by telling whoever the murderer is or someone connected to the murderer about this girl and what her name was. And there's this point where like she's trying to get Francesco to ask him like more about the curse. Oh no, she's trying to get Wrath to tell her more about the curse. Then Francesco shows up, and then Wrath is like holding, like pinning him against the wall, and Francesco starts bleeding, and Wrath starts like getting really like aroused by the blood, and just like in another way of like Carrie Maniscalco not knowing how to make him not a vampire. But then he like delivers this monologue about how power is his favorite thing. And something kind
Right.
of fucks up with the audio where he has like a Cockney accent for a minute where he's like, I'd lie for it. They're like talking about like all the things he'd do to get power. And he's like, I'd
Right.
sell my soul again. And we're like, what do you mean again? Are you not a fallen
Right.
angel? Like,
I noticed several instances where the person reading the audiobook flip-flopped what they decided his accent was
yeah. This one I
halfway
had to
through the book.
rewind it like 2 times. I was like, "Wait, you did what for it?" But then she does some kind of like truth spell. So, okay, the thing that well, not the thing, but one of the many things that really bugs me about this book is just like it's a book about witches that draws from no established mythology but doesn't make any effort to create its own.
Yeah.
And then doesn't describe really besides like candles, metals and plants what kinds of things you need for any spell crafting. She just decides she's going to start doing like some kind of truth spell requiring no ingredients, no intent, no skill, just
Right.
an amulet clutch at the right time. Somehow starts funneling Wrath's demon emotions into her spell, and then she like uses the voice on Francesco, but her
Right.
voice is laced with like magical command because that's as far of a description as we ever get about magic. And he's like, "Yep, I opened the letter because the letter contained the name of the girl who was murdered." And like, she spells this guy so hard he loses his recent memory. And she's like, "What have I done? I've
Right.
dabbled in the dark arts."
Right. And also something that really drives me up a wall with this is that everyone anytime someone tries to be like intimidating, it's the most pathetic, basic. It's like when someone who is very not tough, like the weakest, most bitch person you could ever meet, tries to act tough and threaten somebody, they say the thing that people like, shut up.
Yeah.
Like, you're not scary. Because anytime Amelia does it, she's always like, I'll kill you, you know?
Yeah.
And like, I guess it makes sense for her because she's nobody. But then Wrath will like intimidate somebody, and he's just like, I'll cut out your guts and then eat them in front of you. And I'm like, oh, very cool, dude. That's very spooky.
Yeah,
It
and that's like a direct quote.
it's so hokey. It is the most unintimidating thing ever. Every time someone tries to threaten someone else, it's so bitch.
Mhm.
And I also wrote down because Amelia mentions South America, and I was like, oh, okay, so America exists in this magical land.
Right. Yeah.
We're getting more kernels of nothing.
The kingdom of South America. She doesn't
Shut
say
up.
that.
But yeah, she freaks out, and then some she continues to freak out, which is a common theme among these 12 chapters. Her having breakdown after breakdown after breakdown after breakdown.
After being like, "I will do whatever it takes to find this murderer," like, at any slight inconvenience, she just loses it and then needs to take a break for, like, 2 weeks.
Right. That is a note I wrote down later because she constantly says, I'll do whatever it takes to solve my sister's murder. When consistently throughout this book, that has been wholly untrue. She will not do whatever it takes because
No,
there are constantly things that she's like, no, I won't do that.
she barely does the bare minimum.
Yeah. I mean, she can't do an investigation without compromising some made up shit she holds true.
Yeah. She's just decided who has murdered her sister, and she's just trying to connect the threads,
Good
tug
old
on the
fashioned
threads.
confirmation bias, baby.
Yeah. But like, okay, so chapter 29, they're gonna go meet another human informer. And this is Wrath's like number one boy in Mir or something like that. And she overhears them talking.
Yeah.
And he's like kind of talking shit about her, and she gets so offended. He calls
Yeah.
her a demon blooded damned witch. And she's like, oh my God, he's
What did you
saying that
say
about
about
me?
me?
I would never say that about him. Like, because she thinks that he secretly like loves her and would do whatever he can to protect her forever and ever, even though he's like
She.
pretending to hate her. But she's like,
Oh, so bad.
yeah. And then she says, yeah, like,
She can't stand him and constantly throws whatever he says back in his face in like the weirdest things she throws back at him. Like she'll constantly call in the validity of whether or not he can tell the truth, even though it's been established about 8 times that he
per
has
chapter.
to. Um, she constantly accuses him of being like this pervert who just wants to like suck on her titties. And he's like, please, I would rather rip off my own head and suck my own dick than do that. And
Yeah.
she's like, okay, well, I'm just gonna fantasize about it then, and then continue to accuse you of being the pervert, even though it's me.
Yeah, she's like, but like, remember that time we were like naked in the bath together? Like, I bet you love that. He was like, I
I was
saved your
trying to
life.
save your life.
Yeah. And then like get you into more of a bargain.
But
But
but this is where we also find out that the tattoo that they have is because Amelia, in her infinite fucking wisdom, when she summoned Wrath in the first place, it wasn't actually a summoning. She made a marriage pact.
yeah.
It's a marriage bond.
Uh-huh. Yeah, their matching tattoos are indicative of a betrothal. They're little lavender wildflower tattoos all over their arms. And she finds out about that because the human bestie of Wrath is like, just fucking seal this marriage deal with this witch, get your powers back, solidify your like reign over your little
Right.
kingdom, and we'll go from there. And then she's like,
What are you
what?
talking about?
Oh my God, what marriage bond? She's like, okay, like you kind of love that. We're like betrothed though, right? Like
Yeah.
basically all they're trying to do at this point is like they find another body uh as
Oh yeah.
well. And it's like
Almost
this is the part
literally
I
the
was
person
so
they were it's
yeah.
the body that they find on the street that they almost like step on. Everyone almost trips over this corpse in the street. I'm like, okay, it's broad daylight. What's happened?
Yeah, her name was Valentina Rossi.
Yeah. And it's who they were speaking about not moments before.
Mhm.
They were like, okay, well, we have to find this person because she's next on the list, which means that she'll be murder. Oh, hold on, there's a corpse in the street. Oh my god, it's her!
It's Valentina.
And this is when I started losing it.
The
Like
melodrama gets so intense.
my notes become manic. Because in the next chapter, Amelia is pissed because when she confronts Wrath about this marriage bond, he's like, "What? Do you think I want this? You're the idiot who did it on accident. You fucking idiot."
Yeah, she makes it all about her.
And she gets, okay, my note for this is it takes a rare form of narcissism to be mad at someone you don't want to marry for not wanting to marry you. Because
Mm-hmm.
that's exactly what happens. She's mad because he doesn't want to marry her, even though she doesn't want to marry him either.
And she like pulled him out of hell into this marriage pact, basically.
Right.
And then she's like getting mad at him about it. And
Yeah.
then she's like, "Why won't you tell?" And she asks him a question that he can't answer for her. He's like, I can't tell you that." And she's like, "Well, then I
You
free you from any bond we have. Like you can
right.
just go then, I guess." And he's like,
Doesn't work like that.
"Okay. Yeah, you can't just like and then like break a spell that
Yeah.
you did no research for and created this issue all by yourself."
And then Wrath explains to her a bunch of shit. And my note is none of this exposition.
No, but this is like there's some moments that I hated especially in this chapter, like where
Go
she's
on.
like she goes to like a restaurant. She's of course she's like drinking lemon water and like fuming, and
Right.
she's like finally feeling embarrassed, like sitting there being like, "Oh my god, I can't believe I got him into a marriage pact. That's probably so embarrassing for me. Also, like how many other things did I like mess up in front of him when like I knew that I thought I was in control and was like directing this whole initiative, and he was just like letting me go for it, and I was being so wrong about the whole thing all the time." Then he shows up and she's like, "Oh my god, how'd you know where I was?" And he's like, "We're betrothed. Look at this fucking tattoo told me where you were." And then they sit in a strained silence for half an hour, which is more unrealistic than many of the things that we have uncovered so far in this book. Because there's no way Amelia would sit for half an hour without saying anything or
Right.
making some kind of accusation. And then they order this like Italian feast that's described to like the level of George R. R. Martin's boiled leather jerkin monologues.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, "I wanted to escape from my dark thoughts for a while."
Yeah, they're
And then
essentially
she's
like having a lunch date
yeah,
where
she
he's
starts
like,
like feeding him scampi.
and my note for that is this is repulsive because it's played, it's neither endearing, it's neither cute, it's neither funny, it's not serious. It falls flat on its face. Whatever it was trying to do, it doesn't work. I don't know
Yeah.
what she was going for with this. If it was like this moment where they're having a cute moment finally, like when Feyre and uh Beast, because I don't remember his fucking name.
Bonner Claw.
Yeah. When they finally like have their moments together where they're just hanging out and kind of like talking about what they like and
Yeah.
like when people get to know each other.
Yeah.
None of that's here.
No.
They
She
just
has
she just like crams shrimp scampi into his mouth and goes,
yeah,
"Don't you like it? It's part of
yeah.
my culture."
and then she like remembers that her sister's dead. She's like, "Oh my god, like I'm out here eating scampi with Wrath and my sister has only been dead a month." And it's like the food turned to stone in my stomach. And Wrath is like, "The fuck?"
Yeah, he's like, "I don't
She's like,
think I
"Tell
like
me about
shrimp
the
scampi."
curse." Yeah. We
But yeah,
get some like
he
very
he
very
does.
basic exposition
Yeah,
in this
this is the
chapter.
exposition that doesn't matter because he explains the curse, and the explanation doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It has no bearing on what has happened, what is going to happen. He's just like, okay, it's like if someone were to explain World War One so that they could explain like the Korean War. It doesn't matter.
It was just another thing that happened.
Yeah.
And like, because she's trying to figure out like the curse on Pride doesn't matter
Right.
because like the number one thing they're trying to solve here is who killed Victoria. Everything
Sometimes.
she's finding out has nothing to do with this.
Right.
But she's kind of uncovering the fact that like witches are not necessarily from like moon goddesses, but they're kind of like half demon too.
Right.
And everybody is like, oh, La Prima, the first ever witch, she cursed Pride because he stole her daughter's soul. But then Wrath is like, actually, Pride and this girl just fell in love and got married, and she cursed her own daughter. In some,
Yeah.
like, you can tell she's kind of trying to draw from like the Hades and Persephone myth, but like doing a terrible job. And she's like, oh, banish her from the coven. Like, that's why some witches give birth to humans because her power was all weird after that. And then he starts talking about then we get introduced to another mythological creature that doesn't matter.
Right.
And it's like an upper demon or an upper demon. Like who the fuck knows?
Yeah.
But it's literally just like okay, this girl has watched Princess Mononoke, and it's definitely like the boar demon from Princess Mononoke. Like the
Hmm.
way she describes all the little like tendrils and shit.
Right. A
It's
thousand
like
million billion teeth.
yeah, it's like, oh, you just watched that movie and you're now just you just stole it from there and you're just describing that.
Speaking of the upper demon, the upstairs demon,
Yeah.
um, I wrote down because as she's describing it, I nearly pulled my hair out because she described it as straight from hell, and I was like, you have to stop describing things that are from hell as straight from hell. That's not a description, that's a fact.
Yeah. She does that so much though. Like later she describes Wrath being dressed in black, being like looking like the kind of person who would be dressed in all black, and he's just wearing all black.
Oh, fuck! Oh, I'm mad all over again. But basically, this fucking mouth demon chases her around the marketplace or
For
something.
why? Why does this happen? Like
And
they're just having lunch.
it seems so phony too. Like he's like, "Oh, they're having lunch," and then he's like, "Ooh, you know what's a really nasty thing to come across? An upper demon." And he goes, "Uh-oh, there's one right there." And
Yeah,
then
better not run.
she runs. Apparently, he's like, "Oh fuck, I'll better get out of the way."
Takes a back seat.
Yeah. And she's like, "Help!" Running through wherever as this thing chases her around. And then all of a sudden, Wrath is like, "Okay, fine, I'll help." And then he rips out its heart, and then that's done.
Mm-hmm.
That's over. And there's a moment where Amelia is like, "Oh, I'm way in over my head. I've been forced into this game." And I was like, "What? You mean this game that you willingly forced yourself into?
Yeah.
You inserted yourself, you fucking moron."
Yeah. I wrote that quote down. I was like, girl, you summoned a demon. Like, you literally started this by yourself. Like, you could have just mourned your sister and moved on, but instead you summoned a demon. You
Yeah,
have been forced into nothing.
yeah. But this is when she starts talking about going home and finding another better clue in Victoria's diary. And I'm like, that has never panned out.
No.
Please stop.
She's like, I'm gonna go home. I'll get my shit. I'll meet you at the palace.
Right.
I guess I'll come stay with you.
And while she's pondering and stuff, another Amelia trait, Amelia Lord of hyper focusing on exactly what doesn't matter. Because I think she gets caught up. I don't remember specifically what it was that she got caught up in, but she like starts scratching at the walls over something that has no bearing on what's currently happening.
And maybe didn't even happen at all. So she goes home. She finds her room has been totally like frigged up. Like
Right. It's been
everything's like
tossed.
torn apart. And she she creates this headcanon that someone's been watching her through her windows this whole
That's
time.
right.
And she's like, she goes into this spiral, and it's just like, with like all the times I like pulled down my stockings in front of the window, like
Yeah.
someone was watching me and just out there like watching me naked in my room this whole
Uh-oh, hold on. Fucking Discord, dude. What is happening? Okay, so like Discord has been crashing on me about 3 to 4 times a day. And it's really, really starting to grate. I don't know why. Can't explain it, but it do. Okay, hello? Me? Thing's broken. Swear to God. Oh, here we go. One, two, three. Hear me?
Mhm.
Okay. Oh. Anyway. Hey, don't. Where did it cut you off? Oh, she was
we were just
freaking
talking
out
about her
about,
breakdown. That's
yeah.
about it.
She was freaking out about some nefarious being staring at her while she's naked, and I'm like,
That
this
she made up.
doesn't matter. None of
It
this
didn't
matters. Like, who
happen.
cares? First of
Yeah.
all, what matters is that your place got ransacked, not that someone's fucking peeping on you.
But only her room and no one else noticed. Her
Right.
nonna, who's convalescing still from getting her head nearly sawed off, who's just been napping for a couple weeks, no big deal, like her head's just repairing itself.
Hmm.
And yeah, she like leaves a note for her family. She's like, no one else will die. I will do whatever dark magic I have to do. It's like, how about a basic protection spell? How
Yeah.
about any magic? Like, how about literally any spell? Do you
Hmm.
even know magic?
Yeah.
And she goes to see Claudia to tell her to put up like warding spells over her house and her family's house. And she's like, here, I'll give you my blood. Do you need it?
Right. Right. Like, she's on this weird warpath now that comes across as so phony because
It
it's so
happens every
misguided.
time. Yeah, she like it's like her pattern. She goes back to the diary, like vitalizes her need to solve this murder at any cost, and then
But not any cost.
hits any roadblock and has a breakdown.
Yeah. As soon as she reaches a point where she was not willing to pay the price required, then she breaks down.
Mhm.
Because, uh-oh, when you say whatever the cost, you don't actually have to mean it.
No, because anytime a cost comes into play, she's like, I couldn't do that. Oh my God.
Right.
How dare you? How dare you force me into this situation that I never wanted to be in the first place?
Um, Next is when remember chapter 33.
She goes to like rendezvous with Wrath at like the new palace digs, and it's
Yeah.
like very plush. She goes to the bathing chamber. She comes
Right.
out of the bathing chamber. Wrath is on her bed, looking like the kind of man who would wear all black while he's wearing all black.
Yeah, yeah. And it's also, she describes it as black is the color people wear when they beat people, apparently. I was like,
Whoa.
hold up,
Okay.
hold up. What do you mean by that? We're not
Girl.
a little racist, Carrie. What do you mean? Why is it gotta be black?
Yeah.
But
And then she's
anyway,
like, Tarath, did you take my sister's diary? Because she can't find the diary. The diary's
right.
been stolen. The diary that means nothing and has never meant anything has been stolen. And she blames Wrath, the one person who definitely didn't do it.
Yeah.
And then
Even
she's like,
though her
I'm
room
gonna
has
have
been ransacked, clearly tossed over, like they do
yeah,
in fucking gangster, like noir movies, where the
yeah.
room is tossed and then the thing is missing. She immediately goes back to her only friend and ally and says, "Did you take it?"
Mm-hmm. He's like, what the fuck?
And
She's like, I'm gonna have a nap.
my note for that was, I have never seen a character in a book who accuses their partner and ally as much as Amelia accuses Wrath of everything. Never
Mm-hmm.
in all my days reading books have I ever come across a character who is so awful.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think Carrie even realizes that she's made such an abhorrent character. There's no redeemable qualities about this person. Doesn't have qualities. And
No.
the ones that she do have are the worst.
Yeah. She just reacts to things. That's pretty much all she does. And then she gets mad. She's like, I'm gonna have a nap. Uh Wake me up when it's time to go meet like the next witch or whatever. He's like,
Right.
we have to leave at dusk, so be ready then.
Yeah,
She
yeah, yeah.
oversleeps, wakes up, and blames him for leaving because even though he told her what time they were leaving, what they were doing, when to be ready, she was like, how dare he not wake me up? And he like leaves this dress for her.
Yeah,
She's like, as if that would be enough of an apology.
right.
Puts
And
it on and
she
decides to go out.
she nearly comes undone again. And then she has perhaps only one time have I ever paused this audiobook, gotten up, and walked away. And it's this moment.
Mhm,
It's when she is on the cusp of losing her fucking cool again,
mhm.
and then says, "No, I couldn't waste energy on being angry." And I wrote that down here in my notes, as you can see. It's probably backwards, so I
No,
apologize for
well,
that.
not for me.
But I was so fucking incensed because Amelia has done nothing but waste energy on being angry.
That's her one trait, is being angry.
That I laughed out loud, wrote that in my notebook, paused it, and walked out of the room for like 20 minutes. I was like, I can't associate with this book right now.
Yeah.
I'll eat my own computer.
Yeah, she's like blood red mad over this thing.
And then she goes out and wanders and then like happens upon a bonfire,
Mhm.
and the perhaps the most, now at this point in the book I'm like, stop this. Someone stop this woman from writing this book. But this is what broke me.
I know. Me too.
She comes across a bonfire and is instantly, what's the word? Allured?
Yeah,
Hypnotized?
it's like Feyre on the fairy wine. She
Right.
wants to just get like white girl wasted, forget about her troubles, take off her shoes, and go dancing with the bitches.
Yeah,
Just
she
like
just starts
just
dancing, and
get out of
then
her brain for a little while.
it just gets hornier and hornier and hornier. My first note of chapter 43, though, is Amelia deserves every bad thing that ever happens to her. Just thought I'd point that out
Hmm.
because it's true. I also wrote immediately after that, who cares what's happening? I was so I was so done. I
Hmm.
was so done.
Yeah. So basically, she is wearing, okay, we have to describe what she's wearing because that's very important.
Right.
She's wearing a black dress. It has serpents and like vines on it, which is literally the cover of the book. I think that's what her dress is. Um, she sees like this kind, it looks like almost like some kind of like Bacchic ritual happening. It's literally just a bunch of like girls and guys and accordions and bonfire. And they're
Right.
dancing, and she shows up. She's like, "Oh, my primal witch instincts are being activated right now." And then she starts like hoping and wishing that she was dancing with someone. And then she starts like feeling these like ghostly hands like roaming over her
Yeah.
bodice, and it's like she's being molested by like a perverted ghost.
Yeah. A ghost starts
Just like
groping
going like
her. Yeah. In the kind of way that someone who's never had sex before or touched someone else has. They're just
yeah.
like,
It's like when you're in like grade 6 and you're
yeah.
dancing with someone, you're slow dancing for the first time, and you just like have your arms outstretched on each other's shoulders and you're just going like this.
And even like the words that she uses to describe it, like she says being felt up on her bodice and even a hand on my bottom. I was like, grow up.
yeah. And she's like, "Ooh, I kind of like that."
Oh,
and then
Jesus.
she says, "The serpent and root dress I put on earlier reminded me of the wilderness." Okay? Great. Thanks for that.
Yeah.
And then she goes, "Maybe I was a cloud." And she's just like dancing, like being like lightly groped by a
A
ghost. I'm
ghost,
kind
yeah.
of just like, this is and it seems like she's on some kind of like witch ecstasy. And I'm like, I wonder if lust is gonna show up. Like,
Yeah,
we know there's another
that's
demon
immediately what
prince
my thought
afoot.
was.
Yeah, there's a party host that we haven't met, but it's definitely this guy. And then she has this tiny little voice in the back of her head that's like, "Remember, as above, so below." Like, you can't just fucking throw that in there and have it make no, like, she
Yeah.
doesn't know what this means. And she's like, "What's like a witchy phrase that like I threw in earlier with similarly no meaning?" And it's like that's supposed to be this tugging thing that brings her back to herself, but she's shoving it back and ignoring it. But it has no meaning because that's like the way that she's using it does not have any bearing on the situation.
That's when I wrote in my notes, fuck you, fuck this book, fuck this author, fuck these poor characters. Amelia is the only fictional woman to ever have the toxic female gaze. Um, oh boy. Shut the fuck up, Amelia. Shut up, shut up, shut up, shut up. Lord of forcing everyone to manage her feelings. This is disgusting. Boy, I was mad. But
Well,
essentially, she comes down. Like
no,
she.
a bunch of stuff happens before that though.
Oh, really? I
Yeah.
must have like been in a red haze. I don't
Like
remember anything.
Wrath shows up and she's like the
Oh, that's
most
right. She tries
erotic.
to undress him.
Yeah, the most erotic thing Carrie Maniscalco can think of. She's being possessed by a literal fuck demon. All she can think of is that she wants to make out with him and lick him. That's as far as it goes. And then she's like actively assaulting him, basically. She's like trying to rip his clothes off, trying to rip her clothes off. He's like, "Hey,
Be
stop
cool.
it." Like, if
Chill.
you want to do this when you're not being possessed by a literal fuck demon, like, we can talk about this later. And she's like, it's just so embarrassing. Like, she's being, I don't know. Basically, what happened, Lust shows up and like she is so horny that she like is unable, she loses her ability to hear. Like
Right.
she like Wrath is like holding her so that she's not launching herself at lust. And they're having a conversation and she isn't able to understand what they're saying because she's so horny. And then he snaps his fingers. She doesn't feel his influence anymore and has like starts throwing up immediately. Like
Right.
she has like an immediate like serotonin just like ejection from her brain and starts throwing up. And then yeah.
But the next chapter is when he like Wrath takes her home and Amelia adopts the persona of a sexual assault victim, which
Mhm.
is very toxic.
Mhm.
Um, I also started a quote, I stopped caring counter,
Yep.
and I marked down every time Amelia says, but I stopped caring, literally those words, or I stopped paying attention. Those two
Mhm.
phrases I marked down, there are 7 marks. It was a 6-minute chapter.
Yeah.
Every
She
time something happened, she's like, but I stopped caring. And I was
mhm.
like, ooh, show me your fucking face so I can punch it, dude.
She lies in bed for 2 weeks and does nothing. And Wrath like keeps bringing her like charcuterie or whatever.
Yeah.
And she's like, "No, like I can't eat." He's like, "Fucking just eat." And she's like, "Okay." And then he
But
starts
I don't
telling
care.
her, yeah, no, like I just couldn't even taste the food. It was just like I was so like not even there. Like my heart was just like a black abyss at this point. And then he tells her a story, and it's like literally about her.
I guess.
Uh, and I was like dissociating at this point because I was
Yeah.
like, I can't be here for this. Like, you guys go do whatever you want to do in your room.
I because
Regroup with me when you're done.
I listen to these books while I'm playing Power Washing Simulator,
Yep, same.
and I had stopped power washing at that point, and while this chapter was happening, I was like this on my desk. Just someone please make this stop.
Yeah. I was furiously washing a skate park at full velocity.
My
Um,
final note for her victimhood chapter was I don't even have the words to describe the anger this book has instilled in me.
mhm.
And I wish I did still. Because my only other note for this particular week is it is going to take me from this time of writing, 1:59 p.m., to when we make this podcast to decipher the feeling that I'm feeling from what this book has put me through, and I haven't. I haven't deciphered it.
Yeah, well, the thing that really made me upset was that she's being like whatever, like emotionally manipulated by this demon.
Right.
But she is the aggressor in the situation with everybody around her.
Yeah.
Like she's the person like he Wrath even says all he did was amplify what you already feel.
Right.
Like he doesn't take away your ability to have self-control or make you feel things you don't feel. It's basically just like she took a drug that kind of really like loosened her inhibitions a bit. But she was like the person throwing herself at like everyone around her.
Yeah.
And then she just has like the most indulgent like come down of all time over it. That takes
Yeah.
2 weeks. And then she goes into like Wrath creates this fucking ritual bath for her to guide a moon daughter back from darkness and puts like candles,
This chapter
flowers,
36.
35 still. It's
Oh.
the end of chapter 35. He
I
re
stopped
plumerias.
literally stopped listening. I did not pay attention to chapter 36. I barely paid attention to 35 because I had to so that I could make my I don't care anymore counts.
Yeah.
But
Well, basically chapter 36 is Wrath like is trying to give her like a pep talk. And we find out that demon magic is basically just like fake it till you make it mentality. He's like, I believe I'm powerful, therefore people
Oh,
around me
right.
believe I'm
Right, right,
powerful.
right.
And
And
then they're having like a games night in her bed, eating cannoli and like playing some kind of card game.
yeah, and he keeps winning. And she's like, how do you keep winning? And I'm like, he's cheating.
Yeah. And they like kind of like almost she thinks he's leaning in to like kiss her. And
Right.
then she notices that he's like dressed real fine and she definitely thinks it's like for her. But then he's like, you better like don't leave the house tonight. And she's
I'm
like,
going out.
why? Yeah, yeah. She's like, who are you dressing up for so nice, you whore? And like he is like he starts giving her like good advice, like trying to help her. He's giving her some kind of pep talk. And she's like, so what you're saying with lust was like what happened with lust was my fault? He's like, I'm literally
Yeah.
not even talking about that. I'm saying you have untapped potential that if you harness it, people would believe you're powerful too. What the fuck do you mean what happened with lust was your fault? Like we weren't even talking about that.
Yeah. And like every time she misinterpret, like when she thought he was leaning in to kiss her or that he was dressed up for her, it reminded me of Ann Perkins from Parks and Rec and how she misinterprets everything that Chris does. Like, no, you what are you doing? Stop it.
Yeah. She loses it again.
Yeah,
And he's like, "Don't leave the house tonight. I'm going out. Stay like, look, I left some like fun activities for you in your room to
yeah.
occupy yourself.
Go play
I'll
your
see you later."
go play your Game Boy, you child.
Yeah. And then of course, she goes out, and that's where the chapter ends.
Yeah, thank God. I've it has been many years since I've read a book that has made me this angry. Many, many years. The last time I read a book like this, it was a gift. Someone had gifted me a book that they really loved, and I read it, and I'm like, this is fucking trash. But I didn't have the heart to tell him at the time. Like, it makes me vibrate when I see a published work
Mhm.
that has about as much thought into the construction of it that I put into what I'm going to have for breakfast this.
Mhm.
As someone who works very hard at constructing stories, I feel slighted.
Yeah.
I can't stand like the audacity that this person paid money to have someone read this book in video format.
Yeah.
How
And
dare you?
it's like it's so carelessly thrown together that like I'm baffled at how it was published in the first place. Like I don't know what it is about this book. Like I I have read a lot of like bad fan fiction, bad young adult fiction, but I have enjoyed all of that so much more than I've enjoyed this book. Like at least there were moments that I found funny
Right.
or entertaining. But there is nothing entertaining in this book. Like there's not like any like cringe sex scenes that you can laugh about. Like it's not even cringe in a way that is funny. It's just infuriating.
Yeah.
Like it has no redeeming. It's not even like watching like a bad movie that's entertaining to watch because it's like it's funny or it has some moments in it that like make it
Right.
iconic. Like it has none of those things. Like it's just infuriatingly bad. And that feels meaningful coming from someone like me who like I'm just happy to be here most of the time. Like
Right.
like my criteria just needs to be like I have to have a nice time. I'm not having a nice time.
Yeah, there's nothing nice about this. Like, my standards for media are very high. I expect greatness because if I didn't, then like the mentality of if I cannot make it, then it's got to be top tier. Otherwise, you're no better than me sitting on the couch just watching it, you know?
Hmm.
Which is that analogy is terrible. I didn't think that through. But I expect greatness if I'm going to pay for it.
Hmm.
And it doesn't matter what the price is. I expect it to be quality, whether I'm paying for it at any price. But
Hmm.
the fact that something like this costs money and that I technically paid for it is wild.
Hmm.
And that the Carrie Maniscalco has made probably a lot of money.
Well, her sequel is coming out like this or next month. Like this series is going places.
I need to write a book.
Yeah.
I need to put skin in the game
Hmm.
because this is I can't stand for this. I can't be a willing participant anymore or uh,
Yeah.
a, a a willing bystander. But anyway, that's it. That's all we've got. That's all we can stand. That's all we can stomach. And
Hmm.
also that's all we've got. Next week, or rather the week after next, we're gonna finish this fucking garbage.
Yep.
The week after that, after the week after next, basically 4 weeks from now, we're gonna sit down with Colt and talk about the three body problem. I'm very excited for that because
Me too.
it's a book written by a human being.
Hmm.
And that's all I know about it, which already puts it at leagues above what we're enduring with this.
I'm just so disappointed because I thought it would be fun. Like
I
you
did
see,
too,
you see bad young adult fantasy, and you're like, "Fuck yeah! Like this is gonna be entertaining. Like I'm gonna have fun with this."
but it's not.
I'm not having fun with it.
There's
I'm
nothing
just upset.
there's nothing fun. Thankfully, there isn't that much left to read.
12 more chapters, and then we never have to think about it again.
Uh little admin. I'm uploading all of the podcast episodes from the Dune one with Conky onwards to YouTube because RSS feeds want a bunch of money so that I could put more than one podcast on Spotify and Apple. And I don't have a whole lot of money right now. When I do, then I'll start putting them on. But right now, they'll just go on YouTube.
Yeah, it's the path of least resistance.
So I will put a link to my YouTube channel in the announcements on my Discord so that you can subscribe and watch these again if you missed them, or if you want to watch them again. Okay. Anyway, we'll see you guys in 2 weeks for another episode. Tomorrow, though, we'll be streaming.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah,
forgot what day it was.
I know. So did I. I was like, is it Tuesday or Wednesday?
But that's all we've got. So, catch you guys, all right? Thanks, everybody, for hanging out and listening. We really need to exercise these demons.
Yeah, absolutely.
And hopefully, next time will be a much more.
I
I don't want to
feel like
say a better experience. I just hope that it's over. But
I think we'll just be happy and relieved that it's over and just be able to,
yeah.
like, joyfully send it into the abyss where it belongs.
All right, guys. Thanks, and we'll see you next time. Okay. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.